Hi. So for the vast majority of my life, I engaged with anime probably once every never. None of my friends ever watched it, and in American culture, anime is kind of considered a bit weird. People around me in elementary and high school would always talk about how weird it is and how, oh, you shouldn't like it because then you're the weird kid. I never personally found anime to be that weird, but I also never engaged with it, so I never really knew what people were talking about or what was so weird about it. But because of my irrational fear of my preteen friends and their judgment, I never engaged with this medium of animation. But then something changed. I got better friends, and with my newly acquired companions, they started talking about how they like anime and the type of animes that they like. This concept of openly discussing anime was new to me, but I accepted it because I thought it was interesting to hear what they had to say. Pretty soon they started recommending anime to watch, but I was still really hesitant to hop on this train. But this hesitation would end once my sister told me to watch Demon Slayer, and as you can see, it was pretty much all downhill from there. I want to take you down a trip of me discovering anime for the first time. For this video, I want to discuss the shows that I watched while on this journey. Some of these were recommendations for friends, some of these were recommendations from family, and some of them were just ones I had heard about from the past. But enough dilly-dallying. Let's start with Attack on Titan, because even before I started going on this anime discovering journey, I had heard fantastic things about this show. Released in 2013, this is also one of the older animes on the list, being almost 13 years old as of now. Now, I was particularly excited to watch this one because I have heard so many good things about it, and I think all of the hype is absolutely deserved. I really had a great time with this show. Now, for every show I'm discussing, I'm going to talk about how much I have watched, because some of these I have watched more than others, and for Attack on Titan, I have watched only the first season. Given that there is 5 seasons and a movie out right now, I have a pretty limited understanding of the series as a whole, but from what I have seen, this is what I know about it. The story revolves around an apocalypse where humanoid monsters called Titans popped up and ate people at such a rapid and undefeatable rate that humanity was forced behind 3 walls. Immediately, I clicked with this setting and plot because I love apocalypse stories, so I was hooked from the very beginning. And I really like the idea of the Titans. I will say a lot of the Titan designs are just really lame. Like, some of them have really cool or uncanny designs that make you feel super weird and disturbed, and then others just look like someone you'd find at your local grocery store. Like, they just look like regular dudes walking around eating people. If they had gone full uncanny valley or full creative aspect with these villains and their design, I would have clicked with them a lot more. That isn't to say that they're boring. I love their concept, and I love the way the characters have to adapt to fight them in different and unique ways. It's really entertaining, and I think the show has a super creative world and premise behind it. Another thing I noticed was just how amazing the music was. The score always fits the scene, with frequent upbeat and exciting musical tracks to accompany the fights, or more introspective music whenever characters are just talking to each other. I love the intro theme song for the first half of season 1. I think it is phenomenal. The chanting in the beginning, the punchy instrumentals, and the way it drops down and it comes back, oh, it's so good. I will say I think the intro song for the second half of season 1 sucks major buns. I really don't like it, but because the first half has such a good song, I'm gonna ignore it. But you're on thin ice, AOT. A few more specific things that I wanted to mention. First one is a minor spoiler, but if you're past, like, episode 5, you're fine. Holy cow, the guts to kill off the main character of the show, like, in episode 5? That's awesome. I was absolutely stunned when this happened, and I thought it was so well done. Like, it's so subversive, and it's so interesting. Like, it's such a switch from what you would expect the show to be. Another thing, I would genuinely die for Levi. This guy is way too cool, and I loved whenever he was on screen. Also, what the heck was the whole story about the miner in the last episode? These halfway cards are usually quick summaries or brief information to enrich you in the world a little bit more. But this one was this whole story about this miner digging under the wall. It was so weird, but I was so interested by it. The ending of the story was actually really cool, and it might be some setup for season 2 or something along those lines. I don't know what that was all about, but I thought it was just so interesting. I also really liked the moving tech that all of the characters used. It was such an interesting piece of technology to be able to like show these characters flying around and using these things to like grapple off of buildings and stuff. It was so interesting. Another spoiler for season 1, but it's not a huge spoiler. The female Titan was an interesting introduction, and I thought the way that it was revealed who she was also really interesting. I just loved how that whole thing played out, and it kind of made me wonder like who the Colossus Titan is, because that's a dude, right? Like there's somebody inside that thing, right? Overall, I enjoyed myself with Attack on Titan a lot. Is it perfect? No. The colors are kind of boring, the characters are well written, but hard to love in my opinion. And sometimes the story drags quite a bit. But generally, this was a really solid show with a fantastic premise and some really, really great moments. This is probably one of the best shows for an American audience to get into because it feels a lot like an American drama in a way. It's a very interesting premise, but it's a lot of focus on the characters and the way society interacts with it and life within walls and stuff like that. It's really cool. The vibes feel a lot more familiar to me than a lot of the anime that we're going to talk about today. So if you've never watched anime, I would highly recommend you give this one a shot. It won't let you down. Now, when I was watching my first anime, I immediately asked my friend if there were any musical themed anime. Now, if you watched my last couple videos, you'll know that music is like my favorite thing on the planet. Other than like my family and my friends, you guys are pretty cool too. So once I started to get into this whole anime thing, the idea of this style of show built around music was fascinating to me. So my friend recommended I watch Bocchi the Rock, which is a 2022 anime all about a high school girl with crazy social anxiety learning to break out of that bubble through her love of the guitar. Now, I will be perfectly honest with you, I was terrified to start this one because look at this cover on Crunchyroll. The last time I saw a cover like this with 4 anime girls with different color hair and distinct personalities from the way they were standing, this happened. Now, I'm kidding, of course. I was actually pretty excited to start this one. For this one specifically, I watched the full first season, which is all that's out right now. Now, first I want to talk about the characters, because unlike a lot of the anime that I'm going to be talking about today, this is actually a slice of life anime. So a lot of the focus is actually put on developing and discussing the characters, their personalities, and what's going on in their life. Bocchi is an adorable main protagonist, and I thought her central struggle of wanting friends and wanting to be famous, but also being so socially terrified of other people that the mere thought of talking to another human gives her a panic attack was a really fun central plot. I immediately wanted her to do well. I wanted to see her make friends, play in front of people, and have a good life that will ultimately lead her down the path of drugs and alcohol. I'm kidding, of course, but I wanted her to do well. I'm sorry. The bassist was also a really fun character. She's honestly the perfect embodiment of a bass player. She's chill. I really liked the way she interacted with the rest of the band, especially Akuyo. Speaking of Akuyo, a character I had to Google the name of because I could not remember it for the life of me, she is also an incredibly fun character. She's the singer of the group, and she's upbeat, determined, and plays off the band super well. I really liked watching her try to learn guitar, and I thought that made her feel a lot more tangible. Like, she really wants to learn guitar to impress Ryo, and I just love that. My favorite side character, though, is Najika, the drummer. Now, am I a bit biased because I play the same instrument as her? Absolutely. But I thought she was the funnest character outside of Bocchi. She's extremely joyous, always pushing the group to do stuff. She's the sole person holding this group together. And the show always livens up a bit whenever she's around. And I think the show had really solid characters all around. They all are kind of archetypes of their instrument and respective players, but they're fun and easy to latch onto. Once I finished one episode of this show, I texted my friend, if Bocchi and her band don't do well, I'm going to literally pass away. And she responded, are you feeling maternal towards them already? And I said, yes. So that's pretty much all you need to know. Now, moving on to the rest of the show, there is a lot to discuss. First off, the music is insanely good. Whenever the band is on stage playing something, you know it's just going to be absolute straight fire into your eardrums. I thank the good Lord above that Kasoku Band is on Apple Music, because if they weren't, if I couldn't listen to this music, I would be so sad. Thankfully, there's actually a huge playlist of songs, many of which are from the anime. Guitar Loneliness in Blue Planet is super sick with some really fun drums and an awesome chorus that I love. It's a very loud, yelly song, which contrasts, if I could be a Constellation, which is a more quiet tone with a jazzy bass line that I like a lot. I honestly think If I Could Be a Constellation is my favorite song from the show, but it genuinely could be any of them. I think they're all so good. All of the songs had super fun instrumentals and beautiful vocals sung in Japanese that really connected to me. Honestly, the rocky vibe mixed with the Japanese vocals is making me want to listen to more J-rock. The central plot for this show is also great. I like the natural progression of starting the band, playing a few small gigs, and then by the end of the show, they're just playing in front of their school. Like, it's not, oh, they're at Madison Square Garden or something. They're just like playing in front of a lot of people for the first time. It's natural, but it accompanies Bocchi's personal growth really well. I just really like how Bocchi grows during this show, starting off extremely introverted but motivated, but then becoming more outgoing and learning more about herself as she gets closer to the band. One of my favorite scenes from this show is this scene where Bocchi and Rio go over the lyrics, and Rio basically tells her to write lyrics that she actually wants to write, even if it isn't popular. I adore this scene. The setting, both the animation and the sound design is gorgeous and calming, and what the characters are talking about further the themes in such an awesome way that I just really appreciate it. This scene probably won't stick with a lot of people the same way it stuck with me, but I just loved it. It was this scene that made me realize I think I really like this show. And overall, I ended up loving Bocchi the Rock. I loved the characters. I thought the story was really fun and natural, and it could definitely help out a lot of people who are going through a similar struggle as Bocchi. I love the way the final concert brought all of the characters we've met so far together in one spot. I've always loved when shows do that with their finale. The art design is stellar. I loved the way the characters and the environments meshed, and I also thought the animation of the instruments looked really realistic. Sure, they blocked the drummer a lot of the time, but I don't blame them. There's a lot of movement going on there. And the environments are gorgeous. Both the character designs and the environments really stand out. A few honorable locations are the coffee shop, of course, the train and the club and the streets. I really loved the way this show looked. There are really only two things I have problems with this show, one of which kind of just being like a light improvement that would have helped it. The thing I didn't really like about it was sometimes the dialogue can be kind of on the nose. I know there's a translation thing going on, so it's probably better in Japanese, but every once in a while they would say something and I'd be like, I get it. Like, it's not so much where it's like, oh, okay, like that's, come on guys. But it is every once in a while. Like, I would say like once every episode, something like that would happen where I'd be like, it wasn't too bad. I noticed it, and so I wanted to mention it. The other thing I think would have helped the show a lot are some practice scenes. I think one of the coolest things for shows and movies that discuss bands and, you know, even like sports movies or something is showing them get better through practice. Because believe it or not, you don't get good at something just overnight. It takes a lot of practice to get good at not only instrument, but also being able to get on stage in front of a bunch of people. It takes a lot of work. And this show tries to do that. There are a lot of times when they're about to practice and it cuts, and then it's like the end of the practice. And the reason they do that is so we don't know what the song sounds like, which makes it a little bit more impactful once they actually perform it. I get it. It works very well, but it also kind of hurts the progression a little bit. Again, most of the focus is on Bocchi's character. We want to see her get better. We want her to see her get more outgoing, whatever. But I also think her physical growth of learning the instrument and all that could have been a lot better if they had shown some practice scenes. Again, not bad. There's a reason why they jump over the practices, but I think it would have made the show feel a lot better. And overall, I loved this show. I thought it was really cutesy, but also had some really powerful moments that I will unironically think about every once in a while. I highly recommend you watch this one. It's super fun. All right, now we're on to One Piece. Holy sh! I'm not doing that one. Okay, in 1979, Star Blazers was aired across the US. This is the only one I watched dubbed because I genuinely cannot find it anywhere other than dubbed on YouTube. The show follows a team of astronauts traveling across the cosmos to find a MacGuffin that can save the human race from radiation caused by evil aliens. Now, I know a lot of you have not heard of this one because it's old. But when I told my mom about this project that I was working on, where I was watching anime for the first time, she told me that she remembers watching a dubbed anime when she was a kid. That show was Star Blazers, and it was one of, if not the first plot-driven anime brought to the US. After learning about this, I felt compelled to watch it. And honestly, I had a lot more fun with it than I expected. First off, the plot is just really fun. From what I saw, a lot of the episodes focus on the characters needing to do something through a space-themed adventure. Whether it be blasting enemy ships or warping through time and space. The characters are always doing something crazy in order to the characters are always doing something crazy in order to get closer to the planet that they need to get to. Honestly, some of the moments stand out and are a really creative use of the space-themed genre. Add on some interesting characters and you have a really solid time. I really liked the main character, Wildstar. I thought the idea of a guy losing his brother in war and then joining the same captain that his brother died under to be a really cool concept that led to some interesting drama between them. I also just thought he was kind of a fun character. Not super deep or anything, but he was still really entertaining. The captain is also a standout for me. I think his voice sounds really cool. The Gamelons were a fun bad guy. They were decently cool villains. I liked the designs that were alien-like, and I thought the way they interacted with the Argo was really fun at times. I do think some of the designs, especially the ones that are just like blonde-haired dudes, are kind of lame, but overall, they were a fun antagonist to watch the Argo go up against. The only main complaint I have about this show is that it's pretty dated. The animation is a bit primitive in terms of detail and color. The dubbed voice lines can be a bit awkward at times, and you can definitely see some translation errors happening every once in a while. And the general plot is a bit generic. However, this is actually an insanely impressive production for the times. While the animation can be a bit stale at times, I actually think the way the ships are animated, almost like boats floating through space, was so cool and creative. I like the character designs, even if they do look insanely 70s, and the fights are well animated with some really cool explosions and lasers. It's a fun space-themed adventure. And I do think the plot is a bit generic, but that's by today's standards. Of course, in 1979, things were a bit different. Star Wars was released only 2 years before, and while Star Trek had been out for a while, there wasn't as much space-themed abundance in media as we have now. So of course, while I think the plot is a bit generic, it was probably amazing for the time. It was probably something people have never really seen before. And for that, I give it praise. What it does with the space-themed genre is really cool. I liked it a lot. And I don't have a lot to say about Star Blazers. I just wanted to mention it because I think it's a really interesting piece of history. One of the first popular plot-centered anime to come to the US is definitely an interesting piece of history to look into. If you're an anime, if you're an anime fan, I would highly recommend you watch this one just to see where some of the roots of popular anime nowadays come from. Of course, this wasn't the first one to come to the US, and it wasn't the first anime, of course, but it's definitely something that pioneered a big part of what makes anime anime. Definitely give this one a chance and watch it. It's old, but it's good. All right, now on to JJK. JJK was an anime I had heard vaguely about, but I'd never really given my full attention to. But while I was working on this video, a lot of people recommended JJK to me. My sister and multiple of my friends recommended I give it a shot. And I'll say this, JJK is really, really good. There are some amazing moments in this that I think about every once in a while, but it's not my favorite. I watched the first and second seasons of JJK along with the movie JJK Zero that came out in between them. The generic concept of JJK is curses. People get angry with each other and ooze emotions out into the earth that manifest into curses that can kill people. I think that's how it works. But where our plot focuses is on the Jujutsu sorcerers that have to exorcise them using various techniques that they have developed through the years. Now, I will say, I liked this premise a lot, and I really liked the inciting incident of our main character getting possessed by the most powerful curse to ever exist. That is cool. And I thought the way he could control when the curse took control of his body to be a really interesting central premise. And it sparks a lot of debate within the show about whether or not Yuji should be killed. So it's a very interesting premise. The first season, I will say, is kind of boring. They don't really do anything with the main character literally being imbued by Satan himself, and not a lot happens that's really interesting or entertaining. The school exchange event was especially super unimportant. Like I just really didn't feel anything towards it. The characters fight each other a little, and then bad guys show up, and then they lose. Cool. Now, I did really like the fights, and I thought they were well animated. I especially like the one where this buff guy and Yuji were fighting the tree. The clapping power that he has where you switch places was so cool, and I loved the way they used it. It was animated super well, and I especially just think this guy is really funny. He's weird, for sure, but he's also just really fun to watch. His quirk where he asks every male character what their taste in women is in order to gauge if they're boring or not is so dumb, but like towards the end, it's just like really funny. And I love that that weird quirk leads him to just adore Yuji because they have the same taste. It's so dumb, but it's so funny. But other than this short moment and Gojo being a goat, I just really didn't like this whole moment, and I didn't see the point of it. It just felt like nothing. The movie, on the other hand, that's the good stuff. It was so amazing. The animation was stellar. The story with the main kid was so interesting, but also heartbreaking at times. The music was great, notably in the final battle. It just sounds so nice. It's so cool. And the villain was amazing. Geto is a really great villain. I really like his development throughout this movie in the second season. But in this movie specifically, I just really like how his plan brings all of the Jujutsu sorcerers to team up against his massive horde of curses all across Japan. That is pretty sick. And I like how it ends. The final blast or whatever is insanely emotional, even though I didn't really understand what was going on. More on that later. But in the end, I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it had an amazing story, and towards the end, I just felt really bad for our main character. It was just so powerful, and I'm so glad I got to see it. Moving into season 2, I want to pretty quickly mention my biggest complaint for this show, and that's that I have no idea what's ever going on. I cannot stress this enough, but all the cursed technique and all the stuff, like all the intricacies of it, made absolutely no sense to me. Like, genuinely, throughout the entire show, characters would just spout some generic nonsense vaguely connected to cursed energy or science or something, and then just aura farm. Like, genuinely, I think the way cursed energy worked throughout this show felt so random at times. It got to a point where characters would just say something, do something cool, and I would feel apathetic towards it because I wouldn't understand why what he was doing was happening. Like, the action looked cool, of course, but there didn't feel like there was any rhyme or reason behind why everything was going on. It just felt random. It just got to the point where I wasn't engaged with a lot of the action because stuff would just be happening. It felt so disorganized, and I was really sad about that because the action was so cool. Whatever anybody would do anything, I was like, wow, that looks awesome. But why is it happening? I don't get why it's happening. If you perfectly understood how all of this stuff works, that's good for you. I'm clearly just dumb. It just really bugged me because throughout this entire show, I kept telling myself like, oh, surely soon I'll understand why Gojo can do this. I can understand what all this stuff is, and that never happened. But moving on to season 2, skip to this part if you don't want it spoiled because I'm going to spoil season 2 pretty heavily. Season 2 was really solid throughout. The backstory was great, and like I mentioned, I loved the character development on Geto. I also really liked the Shibuya incident. I never really understood what the goal of it was. Like, was it just to trap Gojo and kill a bunch of people? Because that's pretty much all they did. But it was still really cool, and I really liked all of the fights, especially Choso's and Yuji's. I thought that one was amazing. This is mainly just because his bloodbending power is really cool and extremely exciting to watch. It was also interesting finally finding out what curse was inhabiting Geto, because that was one of the things I was extremely interested in throughout the show. Who's actually controlling this guy? But I thought the way it was explained and the way it was handled was really well done. I liked it a lot. I will say I think the ending felt a little bit rushed towards the end. The ending was really abrupt, and I didn't really understand why the gate closed or why Geto left. It felt a little weird to me, but I'll never complain about seeing this guy again. So I'm sure the ending feels better if you watch season 3 because surely they expand upon it, but it felt a little lukewarm for me. It was cool. I had a good time watching it, but it wasn't really a standout for me. Also, holy moly, Sukuna is a beast. Anytime this guy does anything, I lose my mind. I think this guy is so cool. He especially shines in the fights in season 2, mainly the one with the volcano guy. This fight is so well done. The colors are beautiful and devilish. The set pieces are awesome to look at, especially when the buildings are literally like melting around them. And this moment where he's like, anybody who moves dies, when there's literally a meteor heading for them. Goodness, dude, come on. Okay, I don't know how I went this long talking about JJK without mentioning Gojo. This guy is so unbelievably beautiful. I mean, cool. He's hot, I mean powerful. I love this guy. His whole deal is pretty much just, yeah, I'm literally the most powerful person in history, and it's not even close. I knew I was gonna like this guy when he was literally toying with the king of curses. And then after him, Yuji is like, could you stand a chance against Satan himself? And Gojo's like, hell yeah, I'd smoke that guy. I laughed so hard at that moment, and I thought it defined his character really well. He's a guy with a god complex that I don't blame for having a god complex. When you can do this stuff, yeah, I get it. I also love this guy's design. His cloak is iconic. The white hair looks cool as hell with or without the bandana. His angelic eyes. Is it hot in here? I also love how goofy he is at times. This guy could kill the entire human race if he wanted to, but then he also gets excited to go shopping and stuff. He's great. Even as a kid, this guy looked at the most powerful curses and said, yeah, I'd like to see you try. I love this guy. I thought he was so fun. I could yap about this behemoth of a character for so long, but I need to wrap up my thoughts on the show real quick. JJK was a really, really good show. I had a lot of fun with it, and I think it had some of the coolest moments in anime out of any that I've watched. However, I also feel like the show had a lot holding it back. I mentioned the nonsensical powers and the lack of explanation of stuff I really wish was explained. That's my biggest complaint. A smaller one is that I thought the sound design was also pretty weak. I'm not gonna harp on this one because who cares other than a cinema nerd like me, but I just feel like the audio was not really fleshed out, which made a lot of the scenes feel kind of flat. Another complaint I have are a lot of the characters are just not that great. I really like Yuji. He has a fun demeanor. He plays off the characters really well. And I like the way he grows throughout the show. However, they don't do a lot with the central plot of Satan literally being inside him. They even make this whole pact where Sukuna will resurrect Yuji if he lets him take charge, but then he just never does that. I was waiting for it to be this big moment where they're like finally gonna beat Ghetto or something, and then he was going to take control and just ruin everything, but then that never happened. Sure, he embodied Yuji a few times, but never really did anything crazy with it. I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity for the show because it was set up in season 1 and then through 2 seasons, it just didn't go anywhere. Megami is a classic quiet badass, and I kind of like him, but his power sucks major buns. If a character's whole power is just he summons dogs, that's lame. That's lame. Nobara is so bland from a character perspective. She grew on me a little towards the end with her backstory. I thought it was kind of an interesting central premise for her. Also, another lame-ass power. Why would you give her a hammer and nails as a power? Choose a cooler tool. Like, I did like the guy with the speaking technique. I thought he was kind of cool, but he was literally unable to talk, so it made it kind of hard to know the guy. And oh my gosh, Mojito is so dumb. Get this guy out of the show. I hated Mojito. Okay, his power is cool, and I liked watching characters navigate a guy who can change their body into whatever they want. It's a super interesting concept. However, his design blows. Genuinely, is this the best they could do? His colors are bland, and the stitches are so dumb looking. I cannot state how much this design ruined his character for me. The idea of a curse built on humanity's fear of each other is so cool and could be such an interesting villain, but then they make him look like this. If they had a good character design, this character would be great. I think he's really funny when he's fighting, like the way he kind of like toys with people and the way he talks like makes the fight kind of interesting. Like it's an interesting character. And like I said, I like his premise of what he is, but he looks so dumb. I also hated the volcano guy's design. The Cyclops thing didn't work and the volcano head made him look so goofy. I could not take this guy seriously. Okay, we need to move on because even though I have my complaints about JJK, I would still highly recommend it. Like I said, I absolutely loved the movie. I thought it was a fantastic film by the standards of what a film is. Yeah, I have some pretty big problems with the show, but there are also some moments where my jaw was fully on the floor. I was engaged with this show. I still loved a lot of the arcs, even if I can pick flaws in them. I highly recommend you watch this one and get your own opinions on it because it has some phenomenal moments. And of course, Gojo. So pretty early on in this experiment, when I was talking to my friend about it, he highly recommended I watch Frieren because apparently everybody is talking about how good it is. And so I decided to give it a shot. And even though I'm only 10 episodes in, holy cow, this show is phenomenal. Frieren starts by introducing us to a D&D style group of characters after they had defeated their final boss. This was already an insanely captivating plot for me because when we think about fantasy characters, especially D&D kind of style, we need to go kill the Demon King on the other side of the world, whatever. When we think about those characters, our focus on them is usually the story, their journey to kill the final boss, their journey to get to the final location, whatever. But we never really think about what happens after for those characters. We never think about the rest of their life after it. Sure, the answer is usually they live happily ever after, but what does that actually entail? And that's where Frieren takes its story. Instead of being an action-filled show, it takes a more slice-of-life approach by showing the mage of the group, Frieren, live her life after literally saving the world. Spoilers for the first couple episodes, but I was so moved when the 2 human guys from the group died and Frieren suddenly realized just how short human lives are compared to hers. I was so impressed just how sad I was for 2 dudes I barely knew. And with a show that's built around essentially an epilogue, the characters are insanely essential for this story. And this show knocks it out of the park. I think this show has my favorite characters from pretty much any anime I've watched. They strike a perfect balance of both entertaining and lovable, but also deep and interesting. Frieren is a fantastic protagonist. She's stoic, but also hilarious sometimes. She has a lot of quirks to her that make you really love her throughout the show. Whenever she gets excited about random magical objects, I get excited with her. Like when they slayed the dragon, she literally went yippee, and I felt so happy for her. The way she plays off the characters around her made for such a fun time. I loved watching her slowly learn stuff about people, things that she used to find meaningless, she now finds interesting and meaningful. And the gag about just how lazy she is so funny, and it always gets a laugh out of me whenever that happens. I also really love her design. The white hair, greenish blue eyes, elven face, and regal white outfit make her a very cool character to look at. And it says here in my notes, say that, but less creepy. I also really liked a lot of the characters from her quest, even though they're mostly developed through flashbacks. Himmel is really funny, and I like the way he's depicted as so overboardly egotistical for no reason. He would probably be really unlikable in any other circumstance, but I just loved the way the show used him. Aizen was a really cool character that I always liked to see, even though we don't really get to see a lot of him. I still really liked him, and I thought the way he played off of Frieren was often very poignant and very emotional at times. Heiter was great. He contrasts Frieren really well, and I like how he tricks her into taking Fern as an apprentice. And Fern herself is a really fun side hero, along with Stark, who they pick up later. These three are a really fun group that I love to see go on journeys and adventure, and it was just a really fun time. It was also really cool seeing all these people that Frieren and the gang encountered when they were younger but are now old. It's a strangely emotional feeling seeing this happy kid turn 50 years older in an instant. A really sad feeling, for sure. But when discussing Frieren, I feel like it's a disservice to the show not to talk about the gorgeous world. Look at these set pieces, dude. The world around them is so lively with a beautiful fantasy aesthetic, and of course the actual animation is just breathtaking at times. The colors are so poppy, the lighting is dynamic and perfectly done, the characters and backgrounds mesh beautifully. This show is a visual pleasure to watch, and it never loses its feel. But not only the animation, but also the sound design makes this world feel so alive. It shows that a lot of thought went into this world and how it would be depicted, and I think they absolutely nailed it. This is easily my favorite setting for any of the anime I have watched. Because come on, dude, look at this. Now, where the action actually starts to pick up a little bit is the demon storyline. This whole thing was unbelievably sick. The demons have a little bit of a dumb design, I'll say it, but I adored the way they were used. It's a fascinating idea where demons don't really know what words mean and are just using them to trick people. It's really creepy, and the way the show uses it was fascinating. The fights during this section were also super cool. Stark and Fern's fights were awesome, and I loved watching them. The animation was stellar, of course, but I just loved the way the full moon was used to make some really cool lighting. Like I said, I really only got to watch a few episodes of this one, but I promise you that when I am done with this video, this will be the first thing I watch. I can't wait to get through this one, not only because I've heard such great things, but also from what I've seen, this is a beautiful show that I cannot wait to see where it goes. Frieren Beyond Journey's End is a phenomenal show that I highly recommend you watch. And finally, we've gotten to the anime that I consider to be my gateway into anime as a whole, Demon Slayer. This is the anime I have watched by far the most of. I have watched 5 seasons of it, along with the new Infinity Castle movie that came out last year. This was the first anime I watched because my sister basically sat me down and was like, "You're watching this." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And then this whole video happened, so thank her. Demon Slayer follows Tanjiro, a boy whose entire family was massacred by a demon, thrusting him into an organization of demon slayers despite his sister now being a demon herself. This show takes a lot of twists and turns, and I was there for every one of them. I was hooked from the beginning, and I never lost interest. First off, I thought this show had the best feeling of progression of all the anime I have watched. Tanjiro's growth throughout the show is just, he needs to get really good at killing demons. But I think the show perfectly paces that growth. It takes Tanjiro a full 19 episodes just for him to be able to barely stand toe-to-toe with a weak upper 12 demon. I feel like with a lot of other shows, the character's growth is off-screen, and then it feels kind of random when all of a sudden they can just like beat a really powerful bad guy. But in Demon Slayer, it is focused on heavily just how hard Tanjiro has to work in order to be able to fight the demons he needs to fight. And the show needs to do this because it sets up pretty early on how powerful the upper 12 and especially Muzan are. They are unbeatable. but they have to be beaten. So the show has to take its time building Tanjiro's growth to be able to kill them. Even the stronger demon slayers have trouble keeping up with these guys, and no one has been able to stand up to Muzan. So the show often has a few episodes or season-long training and resting arcs. That made the show feel extremely natural in terms of the growth of the characters and their respective strengths. And while I can see the argument as to why some people might not like to watch this, because you kind of just want to see people beat each other up, and so taking that time to get there can be kind of boring, I can see. But for me, the slow burn made the show feel extremely organic and natural. It made it feel real despite the crazy stuff that's going on. But if the show is going to take this slow approach, the characters need to be good. And this is something where Demon Slayer both thrives and kind of falters. What I mean by that is that every character in the show is insanely one-sided. Sure, a lot of characters have powerful backstories about why they joined the Corps, usually involving their entire family being brutally murdered. But the characters themselves are just massive caricatures of one personality trait. Does this make them good characters? By my definition, no. Does it make them fun characters? Yes. I adore almost everyone in this show. There's something so irresistible about characters like this. People without a lot of depth, but are also so blown out of proportion, are so fun to watch, and they're done really well in this show. Tanjiro is a really interesting protagonist. He's really lovable, and I adored his personal connection to Muzan because he was the one who killed his family. But I also thought it was just adorable how much compassion he had for the demons he kills. Like, the demon will have slaughtered scores of innocent people, but then Tanjiro is kind towards them in their final moments. It's a powerful show of both justice, but also forgiveness and empathy. Inosuke and Zenitsu are a masterclass in just give him a chance. Both of these characters, I was terrified would become central figures when I first met them because they were both really annoying. Especially Zenitsu, I was like, oh no, please don't make him a part of the gang. But then they proved me wrong because after the mansion arc, I loved them both and was glad to see them come along with Tanjiro and Nezuko. They all play off each other in a really entertaining way that made the show really lively. I also loved Zenitsu's thing where he passes out from fear but then becomes the most powerful swordsman you've ever seen. Every time they did that, I just loved it. I also had a lot of fun with all of the Hashira. All of these characters mesh well with the characters in different ways that make the different seasons really fun to follow, and I liked getting to know each of them throughout the show. But you can't really talk about Demon Slayer without talking about the villains. This show is built around the villains because the main villain is directly tied to our protagonist, but also said villain has a team of 12 demons more powerful than all of the rest. So throughout the show, you know that Tanjiro has to go up against these guys in order to get to the main man himself. So you're kind of always ready for Tanjiro to fight these guys and to be able to stand toe-to-toe with them. Some of these villains are my favorite in anime, and others make me want to switch shows. The pot demon, do you know this guy's name? No, you don't, because who cares? The train guy, super cool power. You can mess with people's dreams and kill them. So why the hell do you need these kids to do everything for you? You're in the elite 12 of demons and you can't kill anyone around you? Stupid. I did really like when he turned in the train though. The duplicating guy, really annoying power. It's not cool to watch, it's just frustrating. Sure, it's kind of sick when he turns into the Hydra, but having to chase around this weirdo while that's all going on, like, come on. Why can't the Hydra dude be the main head? Also, your design is whack. You're in a show with some of the coolest character designs of all time and you look like this? Get a cooler look, dude. Okay, enough negativity, because the rest of the villains are fantastic. Of the ones we've seen so far, a few come to mind. Akaza is awesome. He has a sick musical cue, his snowflake compass thing makes for an awesome power, and I love his backstory. Not going to spoil it because it's a big chunk of the movie, but it's really gripping and I thought it was so cute. I think his design is a bit weak, but I still loved watching this guy. Doma is the definition of a psychopath. A character with a god complex with no signs of empathy for the people around him make for a devious villain that I cannot wait to see fall. But even though he's a contender for the most evil character in the show, he's also hilarious. His quirks and remarks towards the people around him make him really funny to watch. I'm a sucker for villains who are the most despicable beings alive, but also crack jokes all the time. And while we haven't seen a lot of him, I'm really excited to see more of him. Rui is fantastic. An early addition and exit to the show, but he stands out in my mind. He is crazy, heartless, and controlling with a power that I adore to watch. His web slashing power makes for a phenomenal final fight that I think about probably once a week. I also love this guy's design. The white and red mesh beautifully, and I just think it's a really cool aesthetic. Also, while we haven't seen like anything of him, I'm really excited to see Upper One. One of the most powerful swordsmen of all time with the powers of a demon can only mean bad things, and I cannot wait to see this guy fight Tanjiro. Oh, it's gonna be so cool, dude. But none of these characters hold a candle to Kibutsuji Muzan. Muzan is an evil, bloodthirsty, unfeeling, maniacal psychopath with the powers of a god in his hands. He is cold, ruthless, and the perfect embodiment of a demon. This guy is an absolute beast, and I love it. He kills people for no reason in the coldest ways possible and is unmoved by it. Whoops, popping in here really quick because I forgot to mention that there's going to be some significant spoilers for season 2 of Demon Slayer, aka the Mugen Train arc. You've been warned. This guy is so powerful, and the show knows how to show that. After Akaza kills Rengoku, one of the strongest Demon Slayers we've seen up until this point, Akaza goes to Muzan and is trembling before him. That is how you do a villain. We know Akaza is stupid powerful, but even he is mere dust in comparison to this guy. And the show knows what they have with Muzan because we all remember the walk at the end of season 5. The music is tense and phenomenal. The camera work makes you shiver. The screen glitches and cracks as he walks. This guy has so much swag, even the editing breaks at his presence. I adore this moment. It is exactly how it should be, and it perfectly embodies who Muzan is as a villain. He is irredeemable and hell-bent on perfected immortality that he will do anything to achieve. And I love the way he contrasts with Tanjiro. Sure, it's basic. Tanjiro is good and Muzan is hot. I mean, evil. He's evil. But while this contrast is basic, I think it's done beautifully. Tanjiro is the embodiment of a good, kind, and forgiving person, and Muzan is not that. And I can't wait to see these two fight each other. I also adore this guy's design. Sure, does he look like Michael Jackson? Yeah, a little bit. But I love his clothes and the red eyes. He just looks so sleek and so evil. I love it. And while I could talk about this guy forever, let's move on to the gorgeous aesthetic of Demon Slayer. From the first frame, I knew this was going to be a beautifully animated show. The frequent mix of 3D with 2D animation makes for a spectacular look that they knock out of the park. The lighting is absolutely splendid with some astounding looking set pieces that I think about every once in a while. The biggest standout moments for me are Rui's fight and the Infinity Castle. I adore the art design for Rui's fight. The light from the moon, the red webs, and of course the fire coming from Tanjiro's blade. Come on, this moment is so good. The Infinity Castle is also a memorable one for me just because of its scale, and I love the way the buildings move and collide with each other. It's just so cool, and it makes for a out of this world experience. But anywhere in this show really is just amazing to look at, and it blew me away more and more as the show continued just how amazing everything looked. Overall, Demon Slayer is not perfect at all. The characters are one-sided, some of the villains that take up entire seasons are not fun to watch, internal monologue is the only way to tell a story sometimes, and flashbacks are used constantly, and I mean constantly. That being said, this is my favorite anime. I have watched 5 seasons of this and a movie. I paid money to see this movie in theaters. I was sold from the moment Tanjiro cut the stone, and there wasn't much this show could do to send me away. Demon Slayer is my jam. Even though I have some problems with it, you know I will be in the theater day one watching these movies when they come out. If you haven't watched it, needless to say, I highly recommend it. For the past about 4 months, I have been exclusively watching anime in my free time. How the great have fallen. Now here's the thing, anime was way more interesting to look into than I expected it to be. There is so much about it that makes it different from Western media that I was not expecting and was fascinating to learn about. The most notable thing is also the most obvious thing, and that's the language. With the sole exception of Star Blazers, I watched all of these subbed, and that came with a pretty noticeable barrier. I don't speak Japanese, so watching subtitles is pretty necessary to know what's going on. But this was something I loved about anime. I have no idea what's going on audibly. I have to direct my attention away from the screen to read subtitles just to know what's going on, and I still had so much fun with these shows. It's similar to K-pop in a way, where the language barrier isn't as detrimental as you would actually expect it to be. The anime art style is so refined and perfected that it makes for an amazing viewing experience regardless of your knowledge of the Japanese language. That just goes to show the power of animation and what truly makes it such an amazing art form. Because just think about how cool it is that people can make drawings move in order to tell unique stories with deep characters and just completely new worlds and situations. Animation is probably the art form that I'm always the most excited to engage with. Music is my favorite form of art of all time. That's unbeatable for me. Cinematography is definitely up there. Love watching movies, love making stuff with cameras. It's super fun. But animation is always the one I'm the most excited to engage with. When you watch something animated, whether it's 2D or 3D, there's something about it that's special. And because of that, it makes me so annoyed how animation has been viewed in the West as something for kids, a genre that kids watch. Animation isn't seen as an art form that can do any genre, but rather it's seen as monolithic and less respected by Western society. This is something that I think anime has always thrived with, that Western society is only starting to now engage with. Anime is definitely often very cutesy, very kawaii, with a lot of very silly characters and silly animation that goes along with it. But also the majority that I watch for this video are often dark, sad, bloody, violent. Animation is not a genre, it is an art form that can do any genre. It can do a space genre, it can do a post-apocalyptic genre, it can do fantasy. Anything you can think of, animation can do, and often better than traditional cinematography. The limitless nature of animation is something that should be respected and praised, and I think there's no better example of that than with anime. These shows have been, quite frankly, life-changing. Demon Slayer was a slippery slope into a whole new world of animation and storytelling that I am extremely grateful to be a part of. I'm really annoyed that this is still considered to be a taboo or weird thing to watch. Yeah, there's some weird anime out there, but there's also a lot of weird American movies out there. Associating an entire medium with one term is disrespectful to the powerful majority of the rest of that medium. Now, did I love every anime that I watched for this? No, I had problems with every single one of them, but I didn't dislike any of them. Anime is cool. I'm wearing Gyu's kimono, damn it. Like, I'm not ashamed of this. It's a cool art form. Is it my favorite thing of all time? No, but I had a lot of fun with it. If you've never watched anime for whatever reason, give it a shot. There is a lot to get used to, and it's going to take some time. Subtitles can be hard to read sometimes. Internal dialogue is used constantly. Characters can move faster than the speed of light sometimes. Flashbacks are very frequent, and you're going to develop feelings towards animated men that you might not be able to confront just yet. It's okay. We all love Gojo. But if you can get used to that, there's so much here. Sitting around with my friends, hearing them talk about all the different anime that I haven't even heard of before, is just, this whole world has been opened up to me. I haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg with anime. I watched 6 shows for this. There is so much out there, and I cannot wait to dive into deeper waters. If you've gotten this far, comment down below what your favorite anime is. I am looking for suggestions. Thank you all so much for watching. God bless, and have a great day, friends.